Good to hear from these guys ahead of the show tonight. They are the underdogs for the group, no doubt about that, but they're here to have a lot of fun and enjoy themselves, and they're about to get us underway. If you are joining us for the first time, 4 pairs tonight, they'll all play each other, and whoever tops the group at the end of the night will make it through to the second round of the Pairs Cup. Each match is 20 minutes, race to 4, whichever comes first. And we'll play in a combination of Scotch frames, that is alternate shot pairs, individual Scotch, and so on for the 7 frames. It is a dry break straight away though for Leon, so the only Ultimate Pool professional in tonight's group, Jimmy Croxton, is going to have our first shot with hand on the table. And Mark, it's interesting straight away to see he's out there by himself. No, Liam Heifel's not gone out to have a chat with him or try and figure anything out. He's going to let Jimmy just work it out himself.
Yeah, you get the sense that Jimmy's going to be the one calling the tactics tonight. Liam was asking him a bit about the rules beforehand. He's obviously played a bit of pool over the years, but I think hasn't necessarily played a load of these rules. He was just reminding himself how you nominate colours after the break and that kind of thing. Obviously he's going to be a phenomenal cueist. He made a maximum break the other week in competition, and a plethora of centuries as well in that event.
Noticeable, very little communication straight away, so that they're not sort of talked through what the plan might be, because you're fully allowed to talk here as much as you want. There we go, now Jimmy's going to go and have a chat about what to do here. It is a tricky layout for them, not the sort of inviting opening layout that you're looking for, and they don't want to just give it away here.
No, well that's exactly the thing, isn't it? When you're the favourite players, you just don't want to allow the underdogs into it. And that can sometimes be a criticism of Jimmy Croxton. He will go for a shot too many and can give away a chance.
Yeah, I think it can be critical of Jimmy for that. He chases a lot and backs himself to clear up from absolutely everywhere, and not always the way to go. But we mentioned it out in the arena there just before play that Jimmy's been through some health issues. He's been having a few issues with his eye, with his foot. He's been really through the ringer over the last few months, and if it wasn't for this being on live TV and committed to it, I think he probably would have pulled out. He's not quite ready to be back in action, and he referenced the fact in his interview that he may not play in the Pro Series next week. He is on the road to recovery, but struggling to see out one eye. It's very difficult to play cue sports.
Yeah, and it's tough as well, because you don't want to go out and embarrass yourself. This isn't a ranky event, so it's not like it sort of matters in that sense, but I think he's conscious that if he goes and plays in Pro Series and doesn't do well, it's not great for his confidence. He's going to slip down the rankings either way. I think that there may be some ability to freeze his ranking depending on the reasons he's unable to play and how long the health conditions persist, but essentially it's kind of tough. You do have to make your own living when you're a professional sportsman.
I do think you're right though, and you say he's still going to cue well. He's still going to. They're in trouble here. Can't see the one to top left. But he's there's no expectation from him. There's no pressure on him. He's just he's out there. He wants to have some fun with a mate, and he might play quite well tonight because of that.
Yeah, I remember that a couple of seasons ago when Mick Hill was quite ill at a Pro Series event and then went on to win it. Like, somehow you can be distracted from what else is going on off the table, and actually can sometimes make the game easier.
Leon thinks he can get through here, but he could, but could he see enough of it? Very tight. Their opportunity goes, and all they've done with that visit to the table is open the balls up for Jimmy and Liam here.
And this is what they don't really want to get into, because if Liam's going to have any weakness, it has to be the tactical side of the game. It's absolutely not going to be the potting, so you can't afford to let him in for chances like this. Pressure obviously on Liam. This is not his primary career. He's here because he's good friends with Jimmy Croxton and sees it as a bit of fun. But then every time you say that, anybody that's a professional at any sport, you kind of know they're competitive deep down. They don't want to just turn up and make up the numbers.
Yeah, and especially when it's a sport that's so closely aligned to the one that you are actually a professional in it, you kind of, whether he likes to admit it or not, there's always expectation when snooker players come along and play. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's the way it is that a lot of people would just expect them to be brilliant at pool, and well, it's not always the case. But they've gone well here.
Yeah, some snooker players we've seen have adapted brilliantly, and others have made it look a bit harder than we thought they might.
It's great to see Keith Warren here. Amazing feat, really, for the fact he's even playing. Referenced it in his interview there. Had an operation, a brain operation, what, 5 weeks ago, 11-hour operation. It's amazing that he's out there playing. Keith has Parkinson's, and that's essentially what kind of drew him to the sport. He bought a pool club a few years ago and started playing following his illness and kind of fallen in love with it. We've seen him a few times. Always great to see him.
Yeah, it's always inspiring when you hear people facing adversity. Parkinson's is such a difficult condition as well to get on with everyday life, particularly when you put yourself out in the spotlight like this. I just think of the ITV or Sky Sports broadcaster Dave Clark that battled Parkinson's so well and carried on presenting top-level sport for so many years. I mean, you and I know what it's like when you stand out in front of the lights. You can feel nervous at the best of times, but if you're battling an illness as well, it's so impressive that people do carry on with life to such a high level.
Yeah, and inspiring as well. It's so good to see, and Keith's proud of that as well. Tough chance here, though. He's taking these on. He's just running into trouble now, but that red at the top was always going to be a difficult ball, and he's not even on the one at the bottom now. May have to take the one at the top. He can actually pop this to top right. Cue ball's going to be flying into problems, but might as well keep going now. There's no pulling back.
Well, you can't blame him going for the clearance. Really wanted to register his team's first frame, but Liam Highfield now invited back to the table with a pretty open position. Again, this is kind of ideal for Liam. He definitely doesn't need to be left easy positions, but at least if you're in this kind of open position, it just lets you get used to the pace of the table and sort of warms you up.
Yeah, just slightly tricky here. One shot to play, really. This is the key one. Assuming the yellow below the 8 ball doesn't go bottom right, that is. But he has perfect little angle on that ball. Wow, now then. It's gone wrong.
We've seen that so often on this table, although I have to say the table has not been playing as fast the last few weeks as we have seen it sometimes, but I've just gone into that a bit too much. He's got a chance of making this to the bottom corner. Well, I meant the other corner, but almost made the double.
Yellow finishes over bottom left, just puts the pressure onto Keith here. If it stops in the middle of that bottom cushion, it just makes life a little bit easier for Keith, but he's still now got a chance to go ahead and win this frame. Little flick would do. Oh, it certainly will. He's got loads of angle here now. He'll probably have to play for this right into right centre.
Well, when he got down for that shot, I didn't immediately fancy him playing for that cannon, but that's turned out really well.
Perfectly, isn't it? And this is nice as well. Just come on and off. Straight 8 ball to cue in, top left.
It's got to be made though. When you see it from that angle, there's not all the pocket to aim for.
Yeah, a touch thinner than maybe I first thought.
So, 3 frame, that's 3 let-offs for Jimmy and Liam. Looked like Liam had an easy clearance at his last visit to the table. Once again needed a second chance.
I think it's fair to say, when they're 3-0 up here, they've had 2 chances in all 3 frames. For them to make it through tonight, they're going to have to up the level. This level won't wash against the other 2 pairings.
So 3-0 to the good. Liam Highfield to break. Played the 2 singles frames, so we're back to Scotch doubles again.
Cue ball in hand here for the mighty Beef.
Yellow ball.
don't think they'll necessarily been expected to win the match, but I think winning a frame or two in a way would have been a bit of a victory for them, because it would give them something to take away for the night and would also set them up nicely for their remaining 2 matches.
I think Keith should come down the table here. He's perfect on one of the balls to bottom right to get on the other ball to bottom right. And I know they're going to be tricky balls to cue in, but you're only going to save the problem till later on. If he comes to bottom right, you've got to fancy that pot and get out from there.
Yeah, you've got to ask yourself, was he ever going to get better on those 2 balls? They ended up missing the one that probably wasn't expected to be the problem ball, because if you look at where the cue ball was, he was going to have a bit of a fight to get back into position. I don't think Jimmy and Liam will necessarily mind how they win the match, although, as you say, they are going to have to up their game a bit. Although sometimes that can be a thing. When you're playing opponents where you know you're likely to get 2 chances, you end up needing it, whereas if you're playing opponents you know they're going to clear up if you miss, sometimes it does make you that little bit tighter yourself.
See Jimmy's change. This is exactly what we're talking about with Keith previously. He knows that if he makes this ball, he wins the frame. He cues it in beautifully. It was a lovely shot, but it played with an element of safety in it as well, which is unlike Jimmy, but very well executed shot. Could have easily gone top left and kept going, and then you end up taking that ball as a double, or he was awkward on it, but it was the frame ball and should essentially become match ball.
The fact that he could play it with that element of safety in a way made it an easier pot for him, because there wasn't so much pressure. Liam purposefully running the cue ball through here, just wanted to make sure he had an angle that wasn't going anywhere near the yellow that's on the side cushion. So Jimmy can just swing around 2 cushions.
That's a poor one from Jimmy. Just pulls up in time. And no mistakes with the 8 ball from Liam Highfield. So it is a 4-0 victory for arguably the group favourites tonight. Liam Highfield, Jimmy Croxton get off to a fine start. Disappointment for Keith Warren and Leon Munslow, but they'll be back, and as will we. Second match on the way. A little bit of a statement there from Jaden. He's been turning up to tournaments and winning them. He's a very, very good youngster. Big future for the young man. He's already got a big career going. He's going to have to sit and wait, because it is Rutter and Whitworth that get us underway with the Scotch frame here in match 2. And it's a good one from Darrell, and a good opportunity straight away for them to put together a clearance. And you see the difference here between these two, immediately chatting about the plans, the way round. They can talk all the way through the visit.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, this is helpful. Certainly the teams that have a genuine camaraderie with each other. One thing you sometimes see as well is players counting their partner down on the shot clock, or sort of reminding them how long they've got. That can be very useful information. Just telling them they've got 10 seconds, just so they know they've got that bit of time before the pips start. It's more like sharing the workload sometimes, because with this time pressure, you don't always have the chance to think through all the things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort, isn't it? It's finding that rhythm, finding that way is really important. These two have done it before, though. Something they can build on. It was a slightly edgy first shot, it felt, from Scott. Nearly put himself in trouble, and he's tried to get straight back to the same area of the table. 2 shots played from Scott, neither of them executed as he wanted.
Yeah, he's going to be really annoyed with that.
And this time he doesn't want to talk about it, he's walked away. I've played my shot. Over to you, Darrell, you've got this.
Don't think either of them want to talk about it from where they are now. Oh, that's a good response.
What a shot. What a shot that is from Darrell Whitworth, and back into absolutely prime position.
And now this time Scott's under a bit of pressure not to mess it up again. Keep in position. It's going to be hard not to from where he is, mind you.
Yeah, straight in shot to the corner that would have felt a lot harder than it actually was for Scott, the way he played the first 2 shots. But he's on this 8 ball for a breaking clearance to get off to a really good start here, thanks to that great shot from Darrell.
That's more like it. We expected maybe to see a bit more of that in the first match. It didn't quite warm up. Let's have a look at this shot again from Darrell. It's kind of natural shot off 2 cushions, and that ball was there to be potted. last week was less.
Oh, golden break straight away as well. Oh dear. 3-0. And he was close in the first frame of the night. This time he has delivered. Golden break, Darryl Whitworth, 3-0. And that just makes the last mistake from Sean Ash even bigger. Jaden Billingham, the young star, does not get to the table in his individual frame.
3 frames to now.
The draw's not a terrible result for either of these two, but given that the first match went to a 4-0 win, both of these teams would like to get level at the top of the table.
Anyone?
Oh, we spent a lot of the pre-match, pre-tournament or pre-group build-up, shall I say, discussing Jaden and his rising stock in the game and the superstar that he's becoming. We have not seen him play a shot yet, and with Darryl and Scott having an opportunity here in this frame, he may not play a shot here in this opening match.
Yeah, that would be an amazing stat, wouldn't it? Especially in a doubles format when you'd think you'd see plenty of both players. And that's the situation, of course, that Darryl and Scott really want to achieve here.
Tricky layout though. Red top right's actually really awkward. The red they've just nudged down to the yellow now becomes really awkward. Is this one they want to chase? They're 3-0 up, there's 7 minutes on the clock. Yellows have zero future here for a clearance. Do you not just pull back here?
Yeah, it would have been a different situation if that red that they bumped into was still possible. There would have been more balls to work with, but yeah, I agree with you. I think they are heeding that advice. Ooh,
Yeah.
don't really, well, it wouldn't have
That's
been
okay.
terrible if it had dropped in.
Yeah, it's worked out okay though. They didn't want that to drop in. But they've made the cluster at the top even harder with an extra ball in there. And we do get to see Jaden play a shot in the match. Just not anything he can do with it.
Yeah, not the shot he wanted. Is he going to look to play a loss of turn?
He tried, gets the double kiss, and it's no good. Now they could be more tempted this time round because the yellow's been moved away from the red top right, which means that the clearance is actually a little bit easier. You still have the problem with the red by the yellow further down the table, but you may sort of have a semi-have a dip at this one if you like. Leave the 2 reds up there, and if you can open up the one at the bottom like they have, not necessarily how they did it, but as they have, then they can go. Chance to win the match 4-0.
Yeah, that was a nudge, wasn't it? I mean, he'd still been on something, but what a beautiful nudge off the 8 ball. Opens up the only difficult ball. Great chance now to win 4-0. It's been a very different 4-0 from the first match as well. Had a bit of help from their opponents still, but played well in the first frame. If you can come up with a few golden breaks, that'll also work as a way to get through the group.
Just the one mistake really from the partnership. Darryl's been flawless, and Scott's just made maybe just a touch too aggressive with his, or he didn't quite get his pattern right, whichever way he wants to look at it, but not getting out with his chance in frame 2 is the only error they've made. The big moment in this match was obviously Sean Ash missing the 8 ball. Fairly routine 8 ball at that. Slight deceleration on that one. I think he was conscious about overhitting it, and in the end decelerated on it. Wanted just to nip it a little bit. Means that he might not be able to get Darryl particularly nicely on the 8 ball here. It's hard to actually get the cue ball out at all.
Yeah, you can't cheat the pocket too much and still guarantee potting it.
And just accepted it. I think Darryl said that to him, and just get me on the 8 ball, let me cue it in, don't try and get good here.
You'd have to say Darryl's played really well in the match. He's been a great doubles partner in that he keeps getting his partner out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant performance from Darryl Whitworth and Scott Rutter. 4-0 victory, 2 of them on the night. Very different matches, but we have 2 4-0s. Match number 3. 2 losing pairs from our opening 2 games are going to battle it out. The loser of this match essentially eliminated. They will play their 3rd and final game, but they will no longer be able to make it through. As we see, Keith hit a bit of a wild break, miss hit that one completely, and therefore we have a tricky layout. But I think it's important for Jaden and Sean to really understand where they are here in terms of, okay, they've lost that opening match, but actually the reality is that they win this one, as you know, which would be as expected on paper, then they'll have one more match later on tonight, and it could be a match that would get them through to a 6-red shootout. So it's not all lost for them at the moment. They have to kind of park what's happened, find a rhythm here, and try and get this one on the board, and then keep their night alive.
Yeah, that's such a key skill, isn't it? The best players, whether it's in a doubles format or just in an individual event, don't let the past cause them problems in the future. I think we saw a bit of that last week with Oli and Sunnyvale. Got off to a bad start, and it felt like they sort of almost got themselves out of contention in the tournament when mathematically they were still in it. Jaden and Sean needs to guard against a similar thing happening.
And I always think it's easy. It should be mentally a little bit easier to, in terms of they need other results to go their way right now. If Scott Rutter and Darryl Whitworth win their next 2 games, there is absolutely nothing they can do to make it through. But it's not a wild thought to think that the group favourites would beat them in the next match, and then they beat the group favourites in the final match, and they're guaranteed a 6-red shootout. So not all is lost. They have to find form here. Mind you, while we're talking about that, this has been fabulous from these two. It looked like a really awkward layout, and they have just floated these in and picked apart a really nice pattern. If that could have come an extra 3 rolls and left them straight in top left, it would have been perfect. Now there's a shot to play here for Keith. Oh, this is thin. This is very thin.
Somewhat natural path around the table. What goes wide?
I think from there you go the other way around, wouldn't you? I mean, maybe he felt he didn't quite have enough angle, but one to bottom left and try and get back out to the middle of the table if there was enough angle. It was a tough shot though for Keith, and hands the table over. First time that Jaden Billingham has had a chance to pot a ball. He's only played 1 shot so far tonight, and that was an awkward safety.
Better second shot. I can be a bit happier with that one. That can sometimes be the way though. No, in theory everybody should get the same number of shots. They can have nights where you feel like you're seeing a lot of one player and it's a lot of the others.
I think that's why the pairs is such a good format for me. You can't kind of fake it. You can't have one player carry you through, because you just don't know which of the partnership will get the lion's share of the chances as you're going through. So you can try and line yourself up as much as possible. You can try and get your gun player into the position to have back-to-back breaks in the middle of the match and have chances that way, but it doesn't always work out. And whoever goes on to win the pair cup is going to be both players in that partnership that are going to have to deliver to do that.
I think there's so much to be said for having a good chemistry between the players. They sort of can sense that the other one isn't playing well. Some of Dom Cooney and Luke Gilbert a couple of weeks back, Dom said in his post-match interview he didn't think he'd played very well, and felt like Luke had carried him a bit, as we see. Jaden Billingham, it's a very unexpected 8-ball.
Same pocket as the one that Sean missed in the last one, which was the defining moment in the match.
Oh, he's really decelerated on that one. That wasn't a difficult shot for a player of his standard.
Yeah, he knows it as well. And this is, well, perfect for Munslow and Warren to get this opening frame on the board.
Who plays that ball first if it's a singles match? If he's just trying to make life a bit easier for Keith. In the case, obviously, for playing it this way, because it's a forward position to the 8-ball. So it may have gone the other way around it.
Nicely done though.
Yeah, Munslow and Warren do get their first frame of the evening on the board.
He's created a little bit more of a problem for himself here. He started with 2 bad balls on the table, but he's left one near the bottom left-hand corner pocket. Good double. Not really landed. But the one furthest down the table is now a problem ball because it's so hard to get to it. And he was actually on it first shot.
Yeah, sometimes in life you do just have to take the difficult ball when you're on it. I can see why he didn't, because he probably feels he wanted to just play himself into the frame a bit more.
Do you just play the loss of turn here? Might be a little bit of a gamble because it might be tricky to not leave some sort of shot on for Leon, either a double or a pot to top right hand corner. It would be really tough to get out, So it might be worth that gamble.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't mean disrespectful in a bad way, but it's almost throwing the gauntlet down knowing you're leaving some kind of shot.
The fact that the red's covered the pocket stops the double, which is huge. And it also blocks the 8 ball to the bottom right corner, which, if he was able to find the way to deal with the 2 yellows, would be the most likely for that 8 ball. Very, very well controlled shot from Sean, you have to say.
So you're going to go for the combo here. Oh, you played that hard. If you're going to play that combo, you've really got to play it a bit softer than that. I mean, he was kind of forced into that because he had no other shot. There was no point leaving that ball and plotting the loose one at the top of the table. Just maybe didn't quite give himself the full chance.
15 seconds a shot.
Yeah, this is exactly what Sean and Jayden didn't want to get into. They're now in one of those sort of scrappy last few minute things where strange things happen, people nick frames you're not expecting. Really want to get one frame good here, because even though it's only a single frame advantage, it's going to play very big with only going to be 3 or so minutes remaining after this.
He's also running the clock down, which may prove to be a mistake, or time will tell. In normal circumstances, you wouldn't necessarily suggest running the clock down from 5 minutes, because he makes this in the next 30 seconds, leaves 3.5 minutes, you break dry, your opponents clear up. You want that time you've just wasted. So it only works well if they make a ball off the next break and they can then control the situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a different situation. If this is the frame to go 3-1 up, then you're definitely thinking about wasting time. I don't know. I mean, the scores are level. Let's face it at the moment. I mean, he's very purposefully doing it there, isn't he? Because he's just taken an extension as well.
Yeah. Try break reverse clearance and you regret it. I think that the odds are in his favour for this working in this situation. It's not necessarily the normal course of action. He does make the clearance as expected and gets his partnership 2-1 ahead. First time they've led at any point tonight.
It's a big few shots coming up.
He's on this to top left. Big shot goes in, should leave in good shape. Oh, they weren't on it either. They weren't on the next ball. He missed the pot. And they have left a red to top left. And now with 120 left, they can pot out. Don't have to think about a pattern to make the clearance, just need to pot out. Beautiful shot though, get on the one at the top.
Yeah, especially as that was the only missable ball they'll probably have to play in the rest of this pattern. Now there is time to just go after the easy ones. Necessarily been pretty so far, but it looks like they've done what they need to keep themselves in contention in this group. Surprisingly not rushing into anything. You can see now they've committed to not finishing this clearance. They just want to take up enough time that there's no chance of the counter clearance. I don't know if the ball goes to the middle, so he's going to have to play a missable shot to the top corner, but the clock is now in the territory where there isn't time to clear the yellows up.
Yeah, that will be that. They don't even have to play another shot now. It will be job done for Sean Ash and Jayden Billingham. They keep their hopes alive. They'll need to win another match at the end of the night, but they are still clinging on to hopes of making it through. That does eliminate Keith Warren and Liam Munslow, and we will move on to match number 4. 2 winners from our opening 2 games are going to battle it out in our next match coming up after the break.
Welcome back into the arena for our 4th match of the night. And this is an important match because these are 2 teams that are already on 2 points. If we do go to a definitive victory, whoever gets first to 4 will be in pole position to qualify from this group and put their place in the last 16 in a few weeks' time. Darryl Whitworth on the break. He's going to be happy enough to see those balls disappearing in the bottom corner pockets.
Had some success on the break so far. Keep that going. That's 3 successful with a golden. The other one was a break clearance. This one should be a break clearance. These are just laid out beautifully.
You kind of always knew that out of the first match it was likely to be a Croxton Highfield win. You then felt that whoever won the second match of the night was going to go sort of level favourites. So now this is effectively a shootout between the two teams that are currently the most likely to qualify. And they've looked the most likely as well. Jaden and Sean have now got themselves onto 2 points, but did it in a slightly laboured way. Both of these two teams got through 4-0 in their first matches.
The way the group's gone, though, you do feel that Croxton and Highfield are the pair that are most under pressure here, because you feel like there's no return for them. If they were to lose this match, they then need Keith Warren and Liam Munslow to win the final game against Rutter and Whitworth, which doesn't feel as likely, whereas the other way round, you know, if Darrell and Scott were to lose this one, they would hope that they might, you know, they'd have some hope of getting into a 6-red shootout. I'll be very disappointed with that opening visit to the table, because that actually was a fairly, for players of their level, fairly routine break clearance, and they got themselves in a mess pretty quickly there.
And now this is a completely different kind of match for Jimmy and Liam. They got away with quite a few, if we're honest, in the first match. Not going to get, you assume, that many chances here, although, as you say, I won't have expected to be back at the table so quickly in this first frame. Good shot Jimmy's played there. Needed to get that cue ball in tight behind the red. Not a particularly difficult situation to hit this. The two yellows together are a pretty big target. It's more just a question of what you're going to leave once you've hit it.
Couldn't have come out much worse, really. And after hitting it, all 3 yellows, or 2 of the yellows are dead, and all these reds are now on.
Yeah, it's a real bonus to have landed nicely on this red that he's about to play now, because this could have been a tricky one to come back for.
Again, noticeable there was no conversation. Jimmy just stayed out the way. Whereas, you know, as the professional pool player here, you'd expect Jimmy to get involved and just, you know, say to Liam, let's go this way, you know, just take a little bit of control about it. He left Liam just to figure it out for himself.
Well, I think especially as they are good friends, you sometimes see those pairings where 2 good players sort of end up together almost as a marriage of convenience. They know it would be a good pairing, and maybe then the dynamic's a bit unpredictable.
Yeah, I agree. If it was if Jimmy was out there with another professional pool player, you wouldn't go out there and question that as much. But as good a player as Liam Highfield is as a cueist, he doesn't play this game. And I think if Jimmy could have just gone over and had a chat with him and said, like, this is the way we're going to approach it. I mean, if you tell Liam what to play, he's going to play it. He's that good a cueist.
2 good snooker players in the last 3 weeks. The player that Liam beat in the final of the English Amateur tournament was Ryan Davis, who we saw win the group a couple of weeks ago with his brother. On that occasion there was a bit more conferring between the brothers, both quite experienced pool players. Ryan Davis was the pro there and did offer a bit of advice along the way.
Interesting decision here for Jimmy. You play the one with cue ball in hand, you take the one at the bottom of the table and then have to play half a shot just to screw out to the middle of the table, or do you clear the 3 at the top and leave an angle just to drift down and be on this one to play on the 8 ball? I prefer the way that Jimmy eventually went. It looked like he was going to go the other way around.
Yeah, he just didn't really want that ball orphaned from the rest of them. He's ended up slightly on the halfway line here. Like to slightly straighter shot on the ball along the rail, but should be absolutely fine.
It's not going to reach. It's not going to reach. A couple of poor errors again from Highfield and Croxton.
Yeah, I think Jimmy was just worried he had a bit too much angle, but in the end, could have afforded to hit it considerably harder and would still have been nicely on the last red.
He could have got the cue ball down to the 8 ball and still been absolutely fine. There was a lot more room than he felt was there. tell whether that's a good decision or not. It doesn't look easy, actually, to get to the red over the pocket.
No, I think that's the thing, because the other red's in the way of the one cushion path. It would have been a fairly routine shot if you could have just gone straight onto it, but if you're going to hit the other red first, that's not really going to achieve very much. You could obviously play some plant off the cushion, but that's much harder to judge. Oh, he can get through. Oh, what a good shot that is.
One of the shots of the night. That really was excellent. There wasn't much room, and he found a beautiful line, and he even gets the little pop out to be perfect on this red this time round.
There's so little space there for Liam to play with. It's an exquisite shot he's pulled out, and it's going to get them the frame. It's a frame they should have won a few shots earlier. They were pretty relieved in the end.
And a golden break in the mix. Cut breaking really well is Darryl. And that continues. Tell you what, with the Challenger Series coming up next week, he wants this break to continue. He could be a big danger for winning one.
He actually had a golden break in the warm-up as well when Jimmy was watching him, because he was joking about getting that out of the way. But he's obviously got a break going there that gets the 8-ball moving. I mean, it's the perfect break for this tournament, isn't it? Because it gets the 8-ball moving, which gives you the chance of the golden break, but it's also splitting the balls up really well. And in a night where a few things have happened and a few things have swung from one side to another, Darryl Whitworth has been possibly the steadiest player. He doesn't seem to have got too involved in the drama. He's just been going about his business.
Slightly tricky 2 balls left here. They don't connect very well. Obviously taking this one to the middle was no problem, but now needs a good angle. Almost straight here. You can pick the pocket a little bit. He'll give himself a shot, to be fair. It won't be too difficult. Might have to come all the way back on and off the cushion, though. Not enough just to pick the pocket.
Yeah, it looked like he might well have to screw back on and off the cushion. That shows how much angle you can force. Just made it safer that way. Guaranteed he was going to leave some kind of shot. And that yellow ball was handy as well. It was always going to kill the path of the white. Make sure you were nicely on the 8-ball. Well, Darryl Whitworth has certainly been the man for the break so far. He's had 2 clearances off the break and a golden break already. The equation is different though. They've got the 2-frame lead. Oh, now it's the momentum just starting to shift to the right of the arena. Scott Rutter doesn't hit these badly, but doesn't make a ball.
Be interesting to see what the Rutter-Whitworth partnership feels about the match. That's the way it's gone. You've seen the reaction from Scott. It was his frame against him when Darryl looked like he was going in, when Liam looked like he was going in off, and obviously the ball was straight to his corner, and he sort of reacted to them both. And you see that a lot from pool players, and they'll look at he might be sat there going, "Oh, what can we do?" They've had 2 really good nudges there. But when you look back and analyse this match from Darryl and Scott's perspective, they had such a good opportunity to win that opening frame, and if they have done that, obviously it changes the momentum of everything, but just straight on the scoreline, it's 2-2 here, and it's a completely different game. So you kind of sometimes need to look at your own table time out there and what you've done. But they were 2 good rolls for Liam, for sure.
And from a neutral perspective, I think that sets up an interesting end to the night. You've got to think that Rutter and Whitworth are going to fancy winning their last match. So it's going to be all about what Croxton and Highfield do in their last game.
Jimmy Croxton chasing one. And what, we got 3 minutes to play. Well, they're not over the line yet. This needs to be pretty quick from Scott with 2 minutes 50. Got to win the frame, of course, but it is going to be Liam Highfield's break in the next frame. So it's important that he leaves as much time on it as possible. give Darrell every opportunity to get to the table.
Yeah, time certainly a factor here.
One really good shot required to get out here. Need to leave the angle to come down the table and ideally land on the one on the bottom cushion. That does not look like a good angle. Looks a pretty poor shot unless there's more angle than it looks.
He's going to have to force around 2 rails. He's not quite going to know where this is going to end up.
That's not the bad shot. It's the previous one. You could have come down an extra 3 foot and been better than where he was. You could just leave loads of angle. I mean, anywhere an extra foot down the table would have been perfect. Decided at least to go for a pretty wild one in the end. He wasn't going to be able to play an easy containing shot there, but it looked a high tariff one he went for. I feel like we've been saying this frame after frame. Jimmy Croxton comes to the table. He's been given another chance that possibly shouldn't have needed and possibly wouldn't have expected, but has got it. And just this 8-ball now for an important win for Croxton and Highfield. 8-ball is down. Darrell Whitworth played his part in the match, but ultimately that partnership came up just short, and this leaves us poised intriguingly. We'll take a quick break now, back very shortly with match number 5. Welcome back. We are about to get underway here. Match number 5. And it will be Leon Munslow that gets us underway, or very nearly a golden break. Unfortunately for Leon and his partner Keith Warren, they can no longer make it through tonight. The state of play as it stands right now, Liam Highfield and Jimmy Croxton have the qualification and the victory tonight very much in their own hands. They've won 2 out of 2, 1 match left to play. If they avoid defeat, they are through. Darrell Whitworth and Scott Rutter, they need to win this match and hope that the final match of the night, Jaden Millingham and Sean Ash, if they can get the victory, then it would be a 3-way 6-red shootout. That is the only way right now that Scott and Darrell can make it through.
It's not necessarily as unlikely as it sounds, though, because Jaden and Sean will be in with a decent chance of beating Jimmy and Liam. They're not going to be favourites for it necessarily, but they're 2 players more than capable of doing that. Sometimes when you get into these situations, you sort of say this, but thinking that the outcome is really pretty unlikely. But I think actually this time, all results are still possible.
I think one thing you'd have to say, I mean, we said at the beginning of the night with Liam and Jimmy, they're going to have to raise their game. And I think by and large they did there. There were a couple of break finishes in that last match. But I think for the last match to go Jaden and Sean's way, they're going to have to raise their game. They haven't quite played their level tonight, and I think that's pretty fair to say. They've both made some mistakes they won't be proud of, but they're still very much in the hunt. And you know, they're 2 matches in. They've not played particularly well, but they've got 1 match ahead of them that they know sort of almost qualification becomes in their own hands, even though that requires a 6-red shootout, because they now have a chance to make it through if they win and win the 6-red. So positive vibes in their camp for sure, but they will need to raise that level.
Quite a good team spirit between these two. Darrell's had to rescue Scott from a couple of situations, but Scott's played some good stuff as well. Just thinking through how they play that loss of turn. It's always a difficult position, this, when you're out of contention. Although I think for Leon and Keith, they weren't really expecting to come here to qualify, so in a way nothing's really changed. I think they probably came hoping that they might win at least 1 match on the night. They are still in contention to do that at least. Depending on the level of your partnership, you obviously come in with wildly different thoughts on what's a good night. For the top pros, anything other than winning the group isn't really a particularly good outcome. Other people, it's just about getting out there, winning a few frames, and maybe ideally a match or 2.
That's a really good point to make. Yeah, they would have come in. They just want to enjoy themselves, enjoy the experience. It's first time for Leon. You've seen Keith a few times now, but great to see them out there. And, they'd love to walk away tonight and say they had a victory. And that, if that to happen, that would really hurt this pairing, because it would eliminate them. See Darryl, they're just counting out the order in terms of how he wants to approach this. It's all about when do you play the one on the side cushion. It's the perfect last ball for the 8-ball, because you drop it in, 8-ball's waiting, but this shot's key, and he's overhit it. Yeah, that was a poor shot from Scott, and it's actually going to hurt him, because the next shot is going to be tough for him. Basically, he's come too far down the table, so Darryl can't drift him in behind the yellow.
He's played some good recovery shots tonight, hasn't he, Darryl Whitworth?
I would question Darryl's choice of the route, though, in terms of it's never comfortable playing for straight in. Anything other than straight in on that previous shot to land, to be able to drift behind the ball. So his margin of error was tiny. And maybe with the way he had those laid out, there was a better way to go.
Good shot in the end from Scott Rutter. As you said, he was always going to be the one that had to play that more difficult ball down the rail, but cued it nicely. So, running out of chances. Keith Warren breaking off in frame 3. 8 minutes on the match clock. 2-0 down.
Oh, tough one. Probably the best he's hit the break tonight, actually. He struggled with it a little bit, but hit this one a bit more flush. Still not the best, but horrible in off.
Scott offers Darryl a slap on the back of encouragement as he goes to the table. You have to say, of all the players that we've seen tonight, the most likely to sort of take out a routine finish from the place he needs to, it looks like Darryl Whitworth. It's just been very, very solid so far.
It will feel a little bit unjust if Jimmy and Liam Highfield avoid defeat in the next match, they go through. But there's no doubt in my mind that the player of the night has been Darryl Whitworth. It would just feel a little bit unjust, but that is the nature of Group Pool and the Pairs Cup, unfortunately.
It's going to be an intriguing last match, though, because it's not a foregone conclusion that Croxton and Highfield win that. They've looked the more likely based on what we've seen tonight. But there's going to be a lot on that, and it's going to be an entertaining outcome if the result does go the other way. We get ourselves into a 3-way 6-red. There's going to be a lot of interested spectators for that last match, because apart from Keith and Leon, who aren't going to be playing any further part, everyone's got an interest in the outcome.
And they'll probably stay and watch as well.
Yeah, it feels like they've enjoyed their night and want to get their money's worth.
Going to be a tough out because of those 2 reds below the cue ball now. Darryl will be disappointed he didn't get out there. He's played so well tonight, he would have expected to get out in that layout, but he's missed early enough that this is far from easy for Keith. 1/2 of the mighty beef.
Yeah, I have to say, when you asked that question, that wasn't the explanation I was expecting about that nickname.
Yeah. Quite simply, it's a combination of their 2 nicknames. Keith Warren is Beef and Leon is the Mighty. Therefore, the Mighty Beef.
Nice to see people embrace the competition, though. Turn up with the shirts and go the whole way with it. I've got to take the view that you don't necessarily get that many chances in life to play out in this kind of arena in front of a live audience and a TV audience. You've got to make the most of it. This time, surely, Darryl will be making the most of this chance. Effectively, that will be the match done. There will still be 4 minutes or so on the match clock, but the way this match has gone, it's pretty hard to see Leon and Keith winning 3 or 4 frames that they would need.
As we hit the 5-minute mark, Darryl's going to put us at the 3-0 stage, 1 frame away from victory, but they'll be feeling very comfortable that the job is done here in this one. Major turnaround for them not to do all that they can to have a chance to go through tonight.
Can Scott put the icing on the cake and get the job done in the 4th frame?
Oh, another golden. Oh, it's not. Oh, it was tracking. It really was tracking. Have a watch of this 8-ball if we get to see a replay. Look at that, even all the way until it wasn't. I just about caught the side of Scott's reaction. He was tracking the 8-ball.
Feels hard done by, but it's not actually going to be too unhappy with the outcome.
It shouldn't make a difference here. They should clear these up. Half a shot to play at the start there, and now they're plumb. Especially if the right-hand one of the two reds goes to the top right, which I'm sure it does.
Also the added confidence that the yellows aren't absolutely perfect. Obviously not really thinking about anything other than clearing up here, but just takes a bit of pressure off. And of course the fact they're 3-0 up and the match clock is counting down, everything is really pointing towards Rutter and Whitworth right now. So just one shot to be played.
Been a very solid performance, and they started well, opening frame, played it well, and ever since then they've just freed up. Good performance from them, done all they can. They're asking a very big question of Jimmy Croxton and Liam Highfield in the final match of the night. It's still all to play for, still 3 teams can make it through, and it all hangs on our final match of the night here at the Pairs Cup. 1 match left to go tonight, and it is all on the line for all 4 players out there and 2 sat watching. The state of play as it stands right now, Jimmy Croxton and Liam Highfield, arguably the favourites for the night as we came in, are 2 wins from 2, and they just need to avoid defeat in this final match against Jaden Billingham and Sean Ash. If Sean and Jaden get the victory, then we are going to a 3-way 6-red shootout. Scott Rutter and Darryl Whitworth are very much waiting and hoping to be part of a 6-red shootout.
3 weeks, Jimmy Croxton has been sat alongside me in the studio rooting for 6-red shootouts as we go into the last match of the night. His wish hasn't been granted in the last 3 weeks. Could he have one of his own tonight?
It's the one common theme every time I get. Players will tell you, and when you interview them and when you speak to them, they hate the 6-red shootout and being a part of it. But when they're in the commentary box, they all want to be. They all want to see the shootout. They all do. Which tells us that it's absolutely the right thing for us to have.
The nice thing for Jimmy and Liam is that it's in their hands. They just need to get something out of this match, which, given how they've played so far, a bit scrappy in their first match, much better in the second one. Still more to come though, you feel, and maybe getting pushed by these two, which is well, the possible outcome, will be what they need to just kick them into an even higher gear. I mean, they are on paper 2 excellent players. Jimmy Croxton has been around between the top 16 and top 32 of the Ultimate Pool rankings for the entire 4 years of the series so far. Highfield, 12 years as a professional snooker player. I don't know quite how he managed to drop off the turf, to be honest. If you see some of his recent snooker results, he's going to be in great form. A couple of ranking quarterfinals in the course of his career, including one in the snooker shootout, so he's obviously no stranger to the quick fire format. This isn't quite the same format, but the same concept of needing to play quickly.
Yeah, late call up for Liam Highfield tonight for Jimmy, as he had to change partners, been dropped by Liam White and had to find someone last minute. Called on his good mate, Liam Highfield. Jimmy very much has a snooker background himself. A long time before he started playing pool, he was trying to make his way in the snooker world.
Yeah, we've seen a few from that era. Another one of Jimmy's opponents from those days, Ian Alley last week, won the group with John Joe Sharkey. Not necessarily the favourites coming into last week's group, but they were a very entertaining pairing.
Well, we've been critical of these two tonight, not really having much of a chat, and just kind of Jimmy a couple of times just sort of waiting for Liam to make a decision on and not getting involved. But this time they are very much having a good chat about everything. Such a key opening frame here. It's so finely balanced. In these sort of layouts, it's normally the partnership that goes for it first that ends up in trouble. Both trying to just sort of tease each other to go.
A player that we definitely haven't seen the full potential of so far is the man at the table now, Jaden Billingham, under-18 world champion. He himself was saying in his pre-match interview that he's been winning pretty much everything he's entered lately. Just feels like he's had enough sort of easy opening chances to get going. With a bit of a struggle so far tonight. Glimpses of good quality play, as there has been from his playing partner. Sean Nash has played some good stuff as well. They've both missed routine 8 balls though, which obviously doesn't do much for your confidence. I think you can see how much more seriously they're taking this match, Jimmy and Liam. They know that they don't really want to get involved in a 6-red. Well, at least they've got the luxury of knowing that even if they lose, they're not out, they're just in a 6-red. But don't really want to have to do it that way. Get yourself into this position just to win outright. So much nicer just to get the evening closed out in calm style, not put yourself under it at the end. And of course, the fact that Liam White has got a new partner, his son Teddy White, is going to be very entertaining. They're playing next week. Late replacement for Gareth Potts and Jack Whelan, who couldn't play in the end, so it's freed up a spot in that group. It's going to be a tough ask for Teddy. I mean, that clearance from the county shootout that we showed at the beginning of the show a few weeks back was brilliant. I mean, it wasn't the clearance he was going for. He kind of jumped over the first ball and ended up going around the houses a bit, but it was one of those moments, it just felt so defining in a young pool player's career. And just having that excitement out in the arena, it's got to have left Teddy wanting more.
It'll be a special moment next week, no doubt about it, for both him and Liam. Really looking forward to seeing it. And just put no pressure on yourself, just go in there and have fun.
Already seen one father and son combo, the Bradfords qualify. It's going to be a tough ask for the Whites to join them, but Liam's a very good player himself, so be able to guide Teddy through the night. Although, will it be one of those things, like the same way it's hard to be taught to drive or something like that by your parents? Is it going to be hard to be coached through a clearance by your dad?
Well, has that opened the door? Does the yellow by the 8 ball squeeze in bottom left? I'm pretty sure it does. And this is their chance to go. Thought he was going to squeeze that one in. He was trying to be delicate with it. Liam just overran his positional shot, making that tricky. Now, this pairing could go, 8 ball being the problem. The red at the top is a problem, but there is room to get onto it. Question whether they're going to get a better chance from here. You just about play into the 8 ball from this one bottom left. Full ball would be perfect, bump it over. Stay on the one right centre. Maybe make the red nearest left centre right now awkward if they play that shot. So maybe a bit more thought to be done. I like that, getting that one out of the way, getting on this one at the top. I think that's a really good decision. Now, worst case scenario, they're going to have a double or a shot of the 8 ball top left. Leave the red bottom left as a potential last ball, or you could use it to move it.
Also chatting a bit more than they were earlier on. They had a few practice frames out on this table. They played some singles practice frames which had some good moments and some scrappy moments, but then while we were busy filming something else, just looking over on the camera, they smashed in a couple of very quick Scotch doubles clearances. They'd found their rhythm after a while.
Go both ways here. Do you play the bump or do you just accept what you've got? It would be a very tough 8 ball, but if you play the bump and it could go worse, you may not get it better. Decision to be made.
Yeah, it's so tempting, isn't it? They've got such a good angle to bump into it. I mean, you have to play with a bit of side, but it's a big target from where he is.
I guess that's better. I mean, ideal that sits right over the middle pocket, but this is one that still can be cued in. But play this one delicately, dead weight. Very rare do you get any advantage from taking a pocket, but if this 8-ball sits in the pocket, they do gain equity in the frame, but it spits away.
We saw Liam Highfield almost miss a ball down that rail. He caught a lot more of the rail than Sean did. Time missed wide. He's going to be disappointed with that, as you say. If he just gets it over the pocket, they're going to be favourites for the frame.
It's a tricky one though, isn't it? Because I think if you cue that one in, you're more likely to make it if you play it with enough pace to let it spit away from the pocket. If you play to take the pocket, you're less likely to make it. So it's sort of, it's one of those you probably have to, in your own mind, say, I've got to give myself as much chance to make this ball as possible.
It's a bit unnatural as well. There aren't many shots where you're trying to play it so dead weight. I think, having watched a lot of pool on this table, we know that this table is quite generous if you play things pocket weight, which means that people who play on it a bit more often, perhaps more often, play the slow roll than you would on a club table. For the first time tonight, we find ourselves saying that Jimmy and Liam have been let back to the table for a bonus chance. The chance does get them 1-0 up in this must-win last match of the night. It's ultimately just been a little bit tough for them to get going. In some moments, but they've just not quite consistently won the frames back to back. It's all been sort of one frame at a time stuff. And again here, not a bad break, not perfect. You saw the cue ball squirting up a bit to the side, but on another day you could easily make a ball off that break.
Yeah, good chance here for Liam.
First frame was very long, wasn't it? It's amazing that there's only 5 minutes remaining after 2 frames, given the quality of players on display here.
Assuming the 8-ball drops in without any issues, got the perfect last ball nearest the bottom left-hand corner, and then everything else goes. Pretty clear plan of how to work it from here. Roll or two short, ideal world, you're straight in, and you can play on the one top left next. But he has other options.
This is the kind of clearance that snooker players are always so reliable. When balls are open, perhaps when there's more cannons to be played, they don't have quite the same edge. But it's not like you're ever expecting him to miss a pot in open play. Frame is as good as qualification. It's not quite the end of the match, but it's going to take something pretty dramatic for Jaden and Sean to win the 4 frames that they'd need. It's only going to be just over 4 minutes remaining. Ooh. May not be decisive in the context of the match, but that's a surprise miss.
Just left himself awkward. Left himself a poor angle on the one to right centre to leave a good angle at the one at the bottom of the table. He wanted straight in, and then you could just be really comfy on that 8-ball, and he left it awkward and had to accept what he had. Doesn't really want it to fall in. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't. Might play the bump out here. He wants to go centre. It's quite thin on it. He's going to leave it on the 8-ball naturally.
Well, suddenly this match has turned around. If he can double this ball, they're going to be back in it. So if that goes 3-0, the match is pretty much over. But now, 2-1 down, 3 minutes 16 remaining on the match clock.
It actually came out dry, and it was the one that Liam Highfield had the chance to make the reverse clearance, but missed the 8-ball. This time he's made a ball, but he's made the cue ball as well. Disaster. Didn't hit that break very well, it has to be said. Loses the cue ball. Lucky not to go in the centre pocket.
Yeah, he's going to feel a bit unlucky to have ended up in the corner, but in truth, that cue ball was never under tight control. And this is big for Jimmy. These yellows aren't bad, and more importantly for him, he can spend a bit of time going about them, because the draw is good enough for Jimmy. He doesn't have to get to a result here, which is pretty big given that there's only 1 minute 10 remaining.
Strangely, I'd have gone reds there in that situation, but I mean, it didn't really matter because he's only got to pot 3 or 4 balls. Just felt that the first 3 or 4 reds were easy and the first 3 or 4 yellows, but you can't take the natural instinct of a pool player away. You kind of see the set to go for the clearance, which would very much be yellows.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that, isn't it? You glance at the table and think these yellows are all here. It just feels odd to go for the others.
He's going through this. This is too quick from Jimmy. You've got to run the clock here. What's he doing?
Oh, there is Liam White, who would have been his doubles partner tonight, bar the last-minute change.
Well, now, Jimmy has caused himself... If he goes in off here, it's a massive error. He's very fortunate not to go in off. And he isn't going to leave enough time for Jaden. But he just had to pop 4 balls, which he's done, with using the 15 seconds on every shot. Very strange from Jimmy. He's going to get away with it, though.
And that's been the tale of the night, hasn't it? They've got away with a few. I mean, they've been the best team. They probably do deserve the win, but they've needed quite a few second chances along the way.
Yeah, not the plain sailing we were expecting, but it is very much Jimmy Croxton and Liam Highfield that make it through to the second stage of the Pairs Cup. It looked like it was going to be easy. It all turned, and in the end, they had to cling on. But cling on they have done, and they are through. We'll hear from him after the break.